Butch, you want to just send out the link on Chicagoland Chats to YouTube so that we can make sure if they want to hop in live, they know they can.
Got it. Yeah, are you sharing on Chicagoland Chats or you want me to go to your YouTube
You go
channel?
to Chicagoland Chats, I'm trying to manage it from this end.
Got it.
Thank you. Hey guys, we're live on YouTube. Red light's going. Welcome to Chicagoland Chats for Thursday, June 11th. We apologize, Facebook was just not complying today, so we're going to have to take it to YouTube. We're going to get this over to the Chicagoland Chats page, and I'm going to delay a little bit so that people can hop over if they wanted to talk live or have some questions for Kelly and Gwen, our two rock star guests. But before we go into talk to our guests, we always like to introduce our good friend, Butch Zemar.
Oh,
Butch,
thanks.
say hello, introduce yourself to everybody,
Adam.
let us know what you do.
I'm Butch Zemar from Elite Benefits. We help small to mid-sized companies with their health insurance programs and worksite benefits.
And I'm Adam Serwinski with Sidebar Insurance Solutions, your home, auto, and business solution source. And today we have a very interesting conversation with two amazing people and outstanding networkers in the Southland area, Gwen Sterk and Kelly Garver. These two are, well, let's just face it, they're everywhere. They're awesome. They do a fantastic job for their clients and customers. We wanted to highlight them and also allow them to discuss some of the serious issues that maybe some people are facing today. So why don't we start off, Gwen? I'll give you the floor first to introduce yourself, and then why don't you pass it to Kelly so she can talk a little bit about how she helps your firm.
Sure. I'm Gwendolyn Sterk of Sterk Family Law, and we're located in Orland Park, and we provide full services related to family law, and we also do estate planning. We believe in a holistic approach to divorce, and we are honored and privileged to be here today with you guys and to share some information about what's happening in the court system. So Kelly, tell them a little more about what we're doing.
Yeah, thanks Adam and Butch for having us on today. So like Gwen said, we're a family law practice located in Orland Park. So we serve clients doing family law and estate planning. We have a little bit unique approach where we do have a holistic team approach to help our clients and potential clients by building resources within the community to help it. And as you said, we're kind of all over the place, but my role in the company is to do the business development and marketing, which includes a lot of community outreach, so making connections with people in the community to provide options for people.
That's awesome. So why don't we usually like to start off by kind of allowing people to hear a little bit about how COVID has maybe affected your business and allowed the transition and the changes you guys have made in order not only to keep your employees and your attorneys protected and safe, but also your clients and keep providing the top level service. So can you talk a little bit about how you guys have adjusted in the past couple months?
Sure. Yeah. So obviously with everything, in March making, a shift with everything, our office has made a shift with it, deemed an essential business as a law firm. We started working remotely to serve our clients. And, previously in the past, we've always offered free no obligation consultations. So we started having to change with the time and started offering remote virtual Zoom consultations for our clients. And then with that, our team internally has been, we keep up daily through daily meetings and everything just to kind of keep in contact through, technology means. With the courts and everything still, going forward in a lot of ways, there's been a lot of adjustments from every single angle. So we've been working with our clients, trying to prepare them to go into a virtual courtroom, having meetings through Zoom with the attorneys, the paralegals, and our clients. Even right now, you can do a remote notary. So everything is just, made a rapid shift, and we've had to rapidly shift with it.
So Gwen, can you talk a little bit about how maybe the intake process or customers and clients who want to come out and make contact with you are able to do that now, given the current kind of health situation?
Sure. I mean, what's really interesting is that I think that it's really opened up a world of opportunity for people. People look at it as a negative, and I kind of look at it as a positive. So before you wanted to get the day off work, or you had to come, you drive maybe from the city back to Orland Park, you're trying to make a night meeting. We can eliminate all of that. We can do it virtually. We can schedule it by phone. We can schedule it by Zoom. We are now offering callbacks 7 days a week to try to be able to facilitate. We'll offer evening meetings as well, whatever it takes to get an opportunity for you to be able to discuss what's going on with your life. And if you're in a situation where you're at home and there's your children there, maybe your spouse is there. I did one the other day and somebody was in their attic and it was fine. We just adapted to the times and we were able to take care of what we needed to do. I've done one where somebody was sitting in their car. So our attitude is whatever it takes, because this information needs to be passed on, and knowledge is power. That's always our theme. And by getting this information to our clientele, I think that that's important to do so. So we do it free. There's no obligation, whether you're calling for an estate plan or something specific to family law. Maybe you have a special needs child and we need to deal something, with that. We'll do whatever it is to get it done. Which is kind of new. I have to tell you, if you would ask me this question in January, my answer would have been completely the opposite.
What's really interesting too is that I think it's given a lot of opportunity for people to feel safer with the consultation, right? It's not a physical move. They don't have to explain where they've been. They can do things in a secure and safe fashion, but doesn't necessarily seem as such an outlier in your daily activities. So they may be able to explore these things in a more reasonable fashion that's maybe a little safer for them to do so.
Absolutely. And I think it's actually easier. And I think sometimes they feel more comfortable. I think there's been a lot of interesting articles that I've read about saying that, Zoom gets somebody the opportunity to express more. Maybe they can control their emotions in a different way and really express the details about their case. As a matter of fact, I would argue that this has been a little more creative for us to work with potential clients.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think we kind of talked about how you've adapted for both the clients and your employees, but I think one of the things that's really important for people to understand is the effect that this kind of lockdown, particularly on the court system and on just our ability to move around, how has that affected, different orders that they may be having to apply with in a family law perspective? So custodial orders, visitation orders,
Sure.
Alimony and palimony orders, stuff like that may need to be revisited or may become an issue. What would you say to people who are asking those type of questions or are curious about how that's going to affect their lifestyle?
Right. Well, one of the messages we want to get out to everybody is if you do have a current obligation for some form of support, whether it be maintenance, child support, and you've had a financial circumstances that change, along with 41 million other people, so you're not alone, you have to file a motion. The law in Illinois says that it's only retroactive to the date you file the motion. So it's important that people hear this. They don't sit on their hands. If you have had a job situation, call an attorney or file a motion yourself. Do whatever is necessary so that you can get that relief. And I think the court's being very sensitive to that now. The other thing I would say to everybody is that if you have a visitation, what we used to call visitation, we now call custody, allocation of parental responsibilities, and we call visitation parenting time. Even under the governor's stay-at-home order, there was a clause in there that said you still had to comply with the parenting orders. So you still had to shift your children back and forth. And it's not an emergency just because COVID is out there. Now, if you have a different situation, that might rise to an emergency situation, but the governor's overall directive is you still had to comply with those orders. So we've been trying to get that message out. And if parents are in a conflict right now, there's a lot of mediators out there that are also providing services to help them get to a resolution, because these things can be very emotional for people. One side has COVID, or maybe they work in a high-risk industry. The other side hasn't been out of the house. So these types of balancing acts are important. And having that safety and that level of protection for the children going back and forth is key. So I think you shouldn't hide again under the fear of those situations. We've done a lot of consultations with people just to give them advice if they already have the order. So that's been interesting. If you don't have the order, let's flip it on the other side. And you're in a situation where you're at home and now there's conflict in the home, or maybe there's domestic violence in the home, or maybe the economic circumstances have changed and you need to take action. Again, you also should be calling and reaching out. The courts aren't closed, especially for domestic matters. Domestic relations in Cook County, we're doing it via Zoom. DuPage County, although they're going to be opening up the courtroom more, they're doing it and available to do services. And Will County is certainly open for business. We're doing things by Zoom. Certain counties are going to be willing to do trials, certain counties are not. But it doesn't mean that there's not relief available for you to do that. So, while there's this stay-at-home order and while there's this presumption nothing can get done, I'm hearing it constantly from people, the answer is no, that's not true. The one very unique thing that's been happening over this time period is that I think that it's been very tough for domestic relations attorneys to keep up. Every county has different rules and they're changing every day. So we try to put a warning letter at the top. We're sending you a letter. This is the information today, but it may not be true tomorrow. So stay posted. Stay tuned.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, but it's very good because these services are available. If you need an order of protection, you can get one. You just have to be able to move and have somebody to navigate the system with you.
So you had mentioned about some of these court systems doing Zoom calls. Can you walk us through like some of the steps? I don't know how it works. Maybe some of our viewers don't know how it works. Can you give us an idea, a high-level overview of how the courts are handling Zoom?
Sure. So for example, at certain calls, the judges will do what's called case management conferences or status calls. And actually the attorneys and the individual participants come in on Zoom. When the judge sees they have a match, they hear it. If you want to specify, for example, you want to finalize your divorce, you can set it for prove up, and then everybody will go into the room. The judge will control the Zoom, and you'll actually testify to the court. And the judge can put you in a room for a period of time. Pre-trials are occurring, hearings are occurring. Things can get done during this time period. And actually, to assist our clients, we give them Zoom training. So we have videos that they can watch about how to use Zoom, and we actually walk them through and give them Zoom illustrations. But it is controlled by the judges, and I'm seeing that that's evolving. And frankly, the attitude that we're getting is, one, that the courts were planning on this anyway. It was down the road. Other states have been doing it for a very long time, and it's time this really forced our community to put it out there and get things done in a much more efficient manner.
Now, do you think it takes away, and of course, we're dealing with some attorneys here, and so I wouldn't know any of the historic aspect of courtroom and law by moving it more virtual versus inside the courtroom, because obviously it's been there for a long time. You had to be present inside the courtroom. Is it taking away any of that, not only just historic value, but maybe there's something written in law that was there to begin with in a courtroom that now is virtual, that changes some of those procedures?
Well, I think that, it's modern times, and I think that we had planned on adapting to this new era anyway. And in fact, the Illinois Supreme Court rules have changed to give us these opportunities to do it, take a deposition virtually. So I think that the rules are changing. I think that it's ultimately going to save litigants a lot of money. If you think about it, you have to pay an attorney to go downtown for a hearing on a case management, which could be done by Zoom in 15 minutes. But if you have to park your car, drive downtown, walk to the courtroom, wait in the line, leave, all of those things are not as efficient. Ultimately, do I think that trials will be done via Zoom? Maybe, maybe not. I think that will be depending, because I think certain judges think that there is value, as you're talking about, Butch, about the historical precedents, seeing an individual testify, watching their body language, making sure that there's a level of security. I think that there's different levels, but there's a whole lot that can be done virtually that's going to save the system time, make it more expeditious for the clients, for the attorneys, and for the system to avoid that backlog that they were experiencing as well. So ultimately, I see this as a good thing. And like I said, many states have been doing it for years. It's really Illinois catching up.
So how does this change even some of the documentation too? So like, for example, like in a state situation, you guys would know far more than I would, but like certain documents cannot be electronic. They actually have to be in a real paper form, stamped or signed by witnesses. Does this change some of the documentation side since the court system's going more virtual?
Well, that's a very interesting statement. I mean, we see that we've already got remote notaries. So, the old system was that you had to have a notary present and be able to see and observe. Right. Now we can do it via Zoom. There's a whole system that's in place with security measures. And I think Illinois was a little bit behind. And now I see that ultimately becoming, the norm. And then secondly, with regard to original signatures, let's even think about computer programs like Adobe Pro, where you can send it out, get the signatures in real time, and send it back. I'll tell you, as an investment during this time, our firm bought Adobe Pro, so we can do those signatures in real time. So I think it's changing. Remember the old sealed documents you used to get from the court with that raised seal, so you could kind of feel that it was an original? That's all gone too, and that's been going on for a while. So we're just catching up with the technology that's out there. So I think that this is almost a natural adjustment. It's a paradigm change, really.
Do you think some of it would come back, like maybe in certain court cases, that some of that was more relevant in certain specific situations? And do you think that would create a problem in the future, or do you think it'll all iron out as time goes on?
No, on a case by case, everything is always going to have its difficulty. We're always going to have that person that's going to say, hey, that notary really wasn't there. Did you record the notary? Did you send it back within 24 hours? People aren't changing. The system's changing. But, the system is only as good as the people in it, right? So I think that that's going to be part of that problem. But
well, I just want to go on for years. I think that that's what, to your point, is that the system is going to have to find ways to defend against the lowest common denominator, right? So if someone's going to take a deposition or a statement, they got to know that someone's not going to have it written out for them there. Or if someone's going to, or if a jury trial is going to go on, they got to have 12 people and be able to corral them without having the influence of outside factors. So I think, to Gwen's point, you're absolutely right. And then it's going to make everything kind of adapt and move forward. But there are some parts that just have to go back to normal because of some of the unfortunate, the lowest common denominators we have to protect against. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah,
Gwen?
I would agree. I also think it's interesting because, one of the judges in giving one of the trainings said, if somebody's looking down at their papers, I'm going to think they're reading, or I might ask them to move their monitor so I can see if there's something really in front of them. So these are things, I call them kinks. We're just going to have to work them through. But, and every time, it's like the classroom kid, right? Do they have something written on the inside of their palm? Are they reading something? Life is only as good as all of the actors. So there's always going to be a problem.
Yeah. Well, and I want to get back to something you talked about, Gwen, because I think it's really important to see how the process in kind of the system is still kind of moving forward. But I think what's really important too that people need to be aware of is that some parts of the system that we rely on aren't there anymore, right? So we talked about those beforehand, and that people may feel right now that they're confined to spaces that may not feel safe in, or they may see neighbor or somebody else who's in a space that maybe they are inferring that they're maybe not a safe space. Can you talk a little bit about how this has changed for those customers who may be dealing with domestic issues, and what your recommendations are for those people to kind of get help or seek help going forward?
Look, domestic violence was here before, it'll be here in the future, and it always exists. That's one of the things. Staying at home is very toxic for those relationships. And it would be my recommendation that if you're in that situation, you figure out a way to place a call, you figure out a way to communicate. And I know that you talked, Adam, with Kelly about that before, and maybe you guys can give an illustration of that just to share that type of information. Let's also talk about the other denominator for kids that are in abusive situations, or there's something occurring at home. They don't have the school, they don't have the social worker that they can release that information to. So my call is to everybody, keep your eyes and ears open. I don't want a situation where you're policed by your neighbor necessarily, but if there truly is something going on and you see something, report it. You have a duty to do that, because it doesn't mean that they're in trouble. It means that somebody's going to investigate it, and maybe somebody really has a problem. So if you need to call, you can call DCFS, you can call a local Child's Advocacy Center. We have a video that we just taped with the Will County Child's Advocacy Center on our Facebook page. It's got good information. They're still available. They're even doing remote hearings and interviews with the kids to try to distance but understand what's happening. So you know what? Help hasn't left. You have to understand that. You just have to take some action. And I get it. It's scary out there, but there are things that can be done, and you just have to place that first call and understand that professionals and other area neighbors, everybody's got to be involved in order to make this a better place.
Yeah, Kelly, if you wouldn't mind just maybe talking a little bit about, well, I shared earlier before we went on that there was a video I saw that is actually a signal for people who are in domestic situations, or hey, maybe we wanted to reach out to help, that they may be able to give to others on Zoom calls like this in an inconspicuous way that maybe they wouldn't feel comfortable talking about, right? So it could be overheard by either someone in the spouse who maybe would be upset by them sharing something. And this one, and I don't know, again, I'm just giving it because my example, I heard it yesterday, was actually holding the four fingers up with the thumb tucked in and then dropping the four fingers over. So this would be a move that you could do just simply on your head, and you'd put it up and then put it down. And the people on the other side would then be able to know something's going on there, I need to report. Kelly, any other recommendations or suggestions on things that the ways that people can connect with each other, or even platforms where they can connect with people where they would feel comfortable getting that signal out, but maybe in an inconspicuous way, from like a social media or just like a get together standpoint?
Yeah, so we've actually done, we have our Building Hope for the Future program. So we actually did one on domestic violence. So we actually worked closely with the Crisis Center for South Suburbia, O'Hara and Fun Salon in Payless, and we had one of our attorneys, Jennifer Nolan, talk. And there's a lot of different ways, even before this pandemic. For example, a lot of the salons, if you go now that they're starting to reopen, that's even someone you can tell, because you can tell the stylists because they're looking for signs. Reaching out to your local crisis centers. I know the Crisis Center of South Suburbia during this had been helping people get put into hotel rooms to escape emergent, like dangerous situations at home during this pandemic. Those are always secure ways. I mean, obviously, if you're in a situation and you're looking, our office can help. We do work with issuing like an order of protection, and we can help represent in court to help enforce that. So again, if that's something, obviously if you're in immediate danger, like you said, call the police, try to get help, reach out to somebody. But then also, like, talking about the hand signal, that's a good way for somebody to see that there's issues and then reach out to. So,
I'd like to add to that, a safety plan, really. If you have an extra phone line, if you know that it's a problem, carry a burner phone, have another form of communication, have your car parked in a way that you can escape, have a place to run to for the neighbor, and put in place and start thinking about these things early on, because people want to help. Don't be embarrassed. Life happens to all of us, but for the grace of God go I. That's what I want to say to everybody. So don't be embarrassed about where you're at this time. Just reach out for help, because help is there.
Yeah, I think it's really important too. Obviously, there's different, and for people who are maybe watching this on Facebook and are looking for ways to connect, there's different apps like House Party or Zoom, or doing different connections that you can actually get that face-to-face contact where nonverbal communication can happen, and you can notify other people about maybe some of the things that you need help in getting out. And like I think Gwen and Kelly gave great examples on ways that people on just the need to get out there. And then also, I think it's important too that there's a lot of anxiety given the current situation, and so things are bubbling up that maybe you don't see as problems. You may have to be a little more sensitive about stuff, particularly when it involves children who can't necessarily maybe speak out on their own behalf, or spousal situations where power dynamics are not necessarily level. So I just think it's really important. It's not necessarily a fun thing to talk about given the current spot, but I think it's a really important piece because I think it's being exacerbated or even exaggerated given the current crisis.
Exactly. And you don't have to feel ashamed about it. I think that that's the wrong message. You just need to reach out that first step. And there's help for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And particularly right now too, with people being home a lot more, alcohol is maybe something people turn to, or different types of coping mechanisms that may not be the healthiest. I mean, these are times where you may need to kind of take a stark look at yourself.
Absolutely. And you need to use this time. It's not a bad time. I think that there's been so much negativity put on this that, we as businesses, we as individuals, we have to look at this as a new day and just a new opportunity. I know that currently in our office, we're using this time to do educational projects. We're changing computers. We're, doing some writing. We're doing a whole lot of things that you didn't have time to do before. And I think that just this new paradigm shift, everybody has looked at it as a different mindset. And our mindset is, it's changing times. It's a different form of communication, but it can be a very good.
I think it's a really sharp way to look at it. I mean, obviously right now is a great time to look at your customer experience, right? Say, what is my customers experiencing? How do we change and adapt that to make them feel safe? But how do we change it to make it more efficient for ourselves and make our life a little bit better?
That's right. And I also think that people are having a difficulty just saying, and I keep hearing it every day, I want to get back to normal. I don't know what normal is, guys. And frankly, I think that the quote unquote normal status we have in our mind is never going to be returned. And so rather than dreaming for this utopia or optimism that it's not going to happen, or being fearful of that, we just have to take the initiative to move forward in positive ways. And I think that it's a new day. I think it's a paradigm shift for the customer. And I would like to share with everybody, I think we go to them instead of them coming to us. I think that was kind of the attitude before. And I think that we've seen evolutionary shifts. And I think brick and mortar is changing. I think the way we service, we just have to look at it differently, and we have to be creative rather than negative, or dream for something that is in the past. Let's leave it there.
Well, I think it's really apparent too, because I don't think anything in our history where we've lost 115,000 souls, or who have been 2 million people have been infected, have been considered, we return back to normal after that, right? So the scale of this, I think people are having a tough time adjusting to it because it's long, right? It's a longer period as opposed to maybe something shorter and something traumatic. But because of that, we also, to your point, we have to look at this as a new launching point to establish the normal and incorporate the changes that maybe this creates into our life, because this may not be the only novel virus that we get in the coming years. We may have another one of these, or we may have a new wave, or whatever it might be.
Sure, and I think that we're getting messed up right now in all this discussion. Was it as bad? Did we label everybody with COVID that maybe had underlying conditions? We need to move past that and try to figure out, this is an attitudinal shift, because the one thing, I read an article the other day, it said 60% of consumers have a different mindset today. They want you to come to them. They want you to service them in a different way. So let's use it as a creative time, in terms of marketing, in terms of product development. If you are a service industry, develop a product. If you sell a product, now give a service. Change it up and use it as an evolutionary tool for the good of all.
Yeah, and we did a video where, especially we've talked about this. You'll hear a lot of either our blogs or even some of our interviews that we've done talking about resetting and pivoting. because you just really need to step back, and everything we've all had to do, we've had to pivot. So it's just important.
Right.
No, it's so true. I think it's incredibly true. And I think to both of your points, I think there's going to be significant changes, and the success rate of people coming out of this is going to be based on their ability to do that. And just on top of it, just one thing to remember as far as to maybe stoke the opportunistic flame. In the last downturn we had juggernauts come out of them, such as Uber and Lyft, ride sharing, different ways people looked at inefficiencies in the marketplace that they could take advantage of, given dire straits. And there were some really great innovations that came from it. And so I'm just hoping that something the same can come of this, albeit with obviously some really harsh facts coming out of it. Butch?
Yeah, I agree. 100%. Yeah.
Kelly, you were going to say something.
Yeah, because, we've done a couple. I know you guys had SK from Aestheticon last week, and we've talked to a couple. Obviously we're very involved with the community. It's been interesting watching how people have had to shift their model in order to adapt and survive, if they're able to. Obviously, some people weren't able to, but, I've talked to a lot of different business owners and stuff within our resources, and, kept saying, I've been meaning to want to do this. I wanted to do this, but no, I had to do it. And so, I'm trying to be positive, because I'm sometimes annoyingly glass half full. So I always try looking for positives wherever. So I always like hearing that and trying to find the good and the bad. So it's always, mindset's a, powerful thing too.
Absolutely.
Sure,
Absolutely.
sure.
Butch, any questions you want to ask? We're coming up on the half hour
No,
mark.
I think it's good. Everything we talked about, because I think a lot of people didn't have any insight on how the court systems were working, and how you could still contact and get some assistance and help during this time frame. So I appreciate the insight and you guys, adapting and pivoting to the change for your clients.
Yeah, Kelly and Gwen, this has been fantastic. Obviously, we want to allow you guys to put out your information to let everyone know how they can get in touch with you, take advantage of the outstanding and amazing opportunities that you offer and service you provide. Not only that, but Kelly is like killer networker. Like, she's like the person everybody in the area should know. So if you don't work with Kelly already, or network, or send referrals her way, or support her clients some way, reach out to them. I want to allow you the floor to kind of reach out and talk about that. And I know, Gwen, you wanted to talk a little bit about businesses as well, so feel free.
Yeah.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, so please, we're available. Obviously Gwen said we're taking calls 7 days a week, but you find us, our website, sterkfamilylaw.com. You can call us at 815-600-8950. Gwen and myself are on LinkedIn. We've got our Facebook page, which we will be sharing, that we will share this on our page as soon as it's posted. But we're also doing daily blogs and articles and talking to different resources, doing helpful videos that we're also posting on YouTube and Facebook. So we're always looking. A lot of our resources have really stepped up and been pitching in to share some of their insights with us. So if anybody's watching or listening and you've got something that you don't necessarily know how to get across to people, reach out to me and I'll be happy to share it for you.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, because I know a lot of business owners listen to you guys' program, and I think some people are struggling there and they've made some changes and they're wondering, when is this going to end? And I want to send a word of encouragement to everybody out there who's running a small business or working in a small business, that this really is an opportunity time, and we have to adapt to changing times. And so whether it be the way you run the structure, whether or not you need to put a drive up in, whether you need to make curbside, and whether or not that's causing you some difficulties now, these changes need to be made permanent, because there is that change of attitude. You come to me. If you look at the history of business operations over the last 100 years, or even just the last 50 years, and there's so much analysis done, that things have been pivotal points. We went to the big box stores and people weren't happy because it wasn't individualized. Then we came back to the individual service, but we can't, do it as efficiently. Now I think it's a new opportunity of this mixture of service with product. So if we can all find a way to get to that point, I think that it's going to be a new day. And let's not forget that there are disabled folks out there that also feel like this all the time. And we did an interview with a group called SOAR, and it left an impact to me, and I want to leave with that today. Is it talked, one of the founders there talked about the fact that people who are disabled feel this way all the time. They feel trapped at home, like they can't get out, they can't do things. And I thought to myself, what a good motto. If you're servicing those people, and now as a whole, we implement that for availability and openness to everybody in that same fashion, what a new world it could be. So again, I leave with everybody saying, this is a great opportune time. this pandemic is going to have lifelong impacts, and it's a paradigm shift. So let's look at it differently. And if you need help in the court system, call. There's help out there.
What a great message. Absolutely, for both business owners and obviously individuals who could benefit from your expertise. Butch, thank you so much for joining.
Yep.
Gwen, Kelly, you guys are amazing
you,
rock
guys.
stars. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you. So fun.
Yeah, it was a blast, and I'm really great we were able to connect again. And it's been too long. Obviously, we used to see each other a bunch, but now we've been
Yeah.
locked up. So
Right.
thanks
Yeah.
again, everyone.
Yeah, thank
Stay
you.
safe, stay healthy. We'll be back tomorrow with a restaurant feature on Friday. Butch, what do we have? Do we know the restaurant?
I don't know off the top of my
All right,
head.
well, we'll
Yeah.
get to it. We'll put it out there for everybody. We always like to feature the restaurants heading into the weekend. Thanks again, Gwen. Thanks again, Kelly.
Thank
Everyone
you.
stay safe and healthy out there. We'll see you tomorrow at noon for Chicagoland Chats. Bye-bye.
Thank you.